Good evening. Good evening, everyone. And I'd also like to add a very, very special welcome into this beautiful atmosphere with the wonderful music that's being provided. And I hope that in the next 40 to 50 minutes that we build this atmosphere together. What I would like to do is share a few thoughts, and then we will enter into silent conversation with God. Share a few more thoughts, more silent conversation. Some years ago, I saw a cartoon, and it was of a man who had a zip right around his head, from his ear here, right around to here. And someone came and unzipped his head and lifted his head up like a suitcase and looked inside. And there were literally hundreds and hundreds of people in there. Many of them in deep conversation, some of them talking, some listening, some arguing, some fighting. And I thought it was a wonderful metaphor for our minds today. So many conversations going concurrently in our heads, in our thinking. Sometimes with others, sharing our feelings with others, trying to prove my point. Sometimes with myself. You know, that inner voice disapproving of myself, sometimes putting myself down. Sometimes I can talk to myself in a very harsh way with regret. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? Sometimes conversations with situations. What's happening? Why is it happening? It shouldn't be happening. And at other times, fantasy conversations with a person in my dreams. It seems that the mind is constantly in conversation in some direction. It never stops. Out of my subconscious, these conversations keep bubbling into my conscious mind. And seeing this mind that overthinks constantly in these elongated conversations, I think we crave a peace inside. We crave a stillness. We crave a mind at rest. We crave silence. But I think at the same time we fear silence, because the conversations have a purpose. The noise of the mind has a purpose. The over-busyness, the overthinking has a purpose. It stops me from going really deep into my truth, to understand really who I am. And sometimes this sweet silence can be like a mirror. It's a mirror where I can see myself so clearly. And in that mirror, to look into that mirror, I need a lot of honesty inside and a lot of self-love and care. I've personally been a meditator for 40 years. And what I love about the journey in life of spirituality, this wonderful journey of learning about myself and coming closer and closer to God, is that we learn this very gentle self-observation. As I go about my life, I look at myself. And what I've noticed over the years is the conversations that go on, so many conversations. And I think at the heart of the conversations, it's about my story. In my memory track, there's so many stories and feelings, how I've been treated, what has happened, what they've said, what they've done. This story constantly goes, it never ends. And what I found recently, I begin to think of my mind as a sacred space inside. The image I have is of a beautiful crystal bowl, absolutely clean and clear, full of clear, pure water. This is my original state of my mind, and wisdom is to keep the negative and wasteful conversations out of my sacred space. But this sacred space has many gateways into it. One is my ears. My pool can be so calm and quiet. One conversation, a few words, a comment can enter through the gateway of my ears, and my conversation in my mind becomes heated and angry. I see something which is not fair or unjust. The gateway of the eyes allow the conversation in my mind to become one of great judgment and criticism. Or even the memory track. The gateway of my memory bubbles up into my mind and disturbs that sacred space. We need such a wisdom to be able to protect this sacred space so that I can have the most elevated conversation of all. And these really are the silent conversations with God. And in these conversations, I experience a love, a divine love, a quality of love I will never experience anywhere else. The quality of these conversations is the purity of love that is really offered. We search all my life for true love. All of us here tonight invest our hearts in our relationships with our families, our friends. We give everything. But there's a huge dilemma in human life, and that is that no relationship is permanent. No relationship is permanent. Whether it's change, whether it's time, whether it's separation, whether it's death, the object of my love goes. And this is why in these silent conversations we're exploring the one relationship that is permanent, that is always there. And so we're reconnecting with the lover of the soul. And sometimes when we forget who we are, we forget the lover of the soul. But in these conversations, we're going to reconnect with the lover of the soul and fill my mind and heart and conscience with that purity of silence. So what I'd love to do is invite you into our first silent conversation with God as our mother. And I'm going to make a request that we put phones down, we put books down, we put bags down, we sit a little erect. And if I can request, we put the pause button on all the other conversations going in my mind, from the workplace, from the family. This is a sacred time for a conversation with the one, with the divine. And during this conversation, I'm going to suggest that an image of light will come behind me, I hope. And I'm going to suggest to keep your eyes open and just gently rest your vision on the image of light and follow the thoughts which are suggested. And if your mind wanders, just gently return your mind, not just to listen, but to feel. So let us sit quietly